Can we watch Shedeur Sanders against the first team? I am told by sources that it's a grade 2 hamstring injury. Is that correct?
Yes.
Well, grade 2 hammies, Chris, 4 to 6 weeks. Kind of takes Kenny Pickett out of the competition for now.
We have eliminated one.
Can I finally see my guy get some reps now?
To his point there, come preseason, I need to see Shedeur Sanders start a game, at least one. And if he balls out, the Browns are not going to be able to continue to hide and say that he's developing and that he's a project and all of these labels that we've heard slapped on to Shedeur Sanders as to why he hasn't taken snaps with the ones yet. Like, let Shaduer get out there in a preseason game against a jersey that's not Browns players and ball out. The noise is going to get loud both locally and nationally, and they're not going to be able to ignore that, in my opinion.
And I got to be honest with you, I do feel like that's a factor.
What does a rookie have to do to get noticed in the NFL? You throw perfect passes. You lead flawless drives. You make veterans look slow and second stringers irrelevant. And yet, you're still standing on the sidelines, helmet on, watching reps go to guys who couldn't match your worst day. That's the reality for Shedeur Sanders, a rookie QB who's been nothing short of surgical in training camp. 9 for 9, 2 touchdowns, not a single mistake. Coaches watched, teammates nodded, even the media started buzzing. But when it came time to reward that performance, nothing. No promotion, no first team reps, no explanation. And now the question everyone's asking isn't if Shaduer's ready, it's why the Browns are pretending like he doesn't exist. Is it politics, fear, ego? Because this isn't just about talent anymore. It's about something deeper. And what's happening behind the scenes in Cleveland might be one of the NFL's most quietly explosive storylines right now. It happened in a flash. One awkward step, a sharp pull, and suddenly Kenny Pickett was on the ground, clutching the back of his leg. Practice stopped. Trainer swarmed. And just like that, the Browns' quarterback competition exploded into chaos. The official word came down hours later, grade 2 hamstring strain. Not season-ending, but serious. 4 to 6 weeks on the sideline, minimum. In NFL terms, that's forever. With Pickett out of the picture, the job was wide open. This was supposed to be the moment Shedeur Sanders had been waiting for. The opportunity where talent finally spoke louder than politics. The door wasn't just cracked open, it was ripped off the hinges. And everyone saw it. Coaches, players, analysts, fans. So naturally, everyone expected one thing: Sanders stepping into first-team reps. But then, silence. No bump up the depth chart, no change in rotations, no explanation. Instead, the Browns handed the reins to Joe Flacco, a 39-year-old vet who hasn't held a full-time starting job in years. And let Dillon Gabriel stay in the mix, despite a shaky and inconsistent camp.
To his point there, come preseason, I need to see Shedeur Sanders start a game, at least one. And if he balls out, the Browns are not going to be able to continue to hide and say that he's developing and that he's a project and all of these labels that we've heard slapped on to Shedeur Sanders as to why he hasn't taken snaps with the ones yet. Like, let Shaduer get out there in a preseason game against a jersey that's not Browns players and ball out. The noise is going to get loud both locally and nationally, and they're not going to be able to ignore that, in my opinion.
And I got to be honest with you, I do feel like that's a factor.
Meanwhile, Shaduer, still buried with the backups like nothing had changed. It didn't make sense. The window was wide open, but someone inside was clearly keeping it shut. And the next move Shaduer made would make that decision even harder to justify. Day 5 of training camp, hit with brutal heat and rising pressure. It should have cracked someone. Instead, Shedeur Sanders lit it up. 9 passes, 9 completions, 2 touchdowns, 0 mistakes. And these weren't soft tosses or padded stats in garbage time. These were tight window throws, blitz reads, red zone strikes. One was a frozen rope to a tight end in traffic. The other, a back shoulder fade that looked ripped from a Sunday highlight reel. Every rep screamed NFL ready. Defenders shook their heads. Teammates started watching differently. The crowd noticed. Even the media took note. Reporters on site were buzzing, some literally calling it clinic tape. And yet, the next day, nothing changed. Joe Flacco still took first-team reps. Dillon Gabriel stayed in the mix. And Shaduer right back to running with third stringers. No reward, no recognition, no shot. You'd think perfection would mean something. You'd think outplaying every quarterback on the field would move the needle even a little. But for Shedeur Sanders, even flawless execution wasn't enough. And that's when the whispers started. Because either the Browns weren't watching what everyone else saw, or they were, and chose to ignore it. Joe Flacco is 39. He moves like he's dragging cinder blocks, hasn't been a full-time starter since before Shaduer even entered college. Dillon Gabriel? Talented, sure, but wildly inconsistent. 1 decent drive followed by 3 shaky ones. And yet, these are the quarterbacks the Browns are trotting out with the first-team offense.
Because he was a higher draft pick?
Yes.
The Browns are, I'm going to tell you something right now, man. I am walking a line with this team you don't want to know. You don't want me. I am this close to removing myself from the entire conversation.
It's not just questionable, it's baffling. Shedeur Sanders is outplaying both of them, day after day. He's making the right reads, throwing with precision, showing poise under pressure. And still, he's stuck throwing to guys who may not even make the final roster. The message being sent? Talent doesn't matter. At least, not yet. And fans are starting to notice. So are players. Whispers around the building suggest people are beginning to question whether this competition is even real. Because right now, it feels like the outcome was decided before camp even started. You'd think in a league built on results, performance would win the day. But instead, it feels like Shaduer's stuck in a system that's more about pecking order than production. And what happens next only adds fuel to the fire. At first, it was just quiet jokes. Defenders muttering about how Shaduer was cooking the scout team. A few offensive guys raising eyebrows after every crisp throw. But by the end of the week, it was clear the vibe inside the Browns' locker room had shifted. Veterans were watching more closely. Some weren't just impressed, they were frustrated. Sources close to the team say multiple offensive players believe Shaduer gives them the best shot to move the chains. Not just because of his arm, but because of his presence, his energy, that unteachable it factor. Word started to spread that Amari Cooper and David Njoku, 2 of the Browns' most respected skill players, had quietly voiced their interest in taking more reps with Shaduer. Not out of disrespect for Flacco or Gabriel, but because they see what everyone else sees. When a rookie earns the respect of veterans, that means something. And when those same vets start asking behind closed doors why the best performer isn't getting a real shot, that's not noise, that's pressure from inside the building. And once the locker room starts picking sides, it's only a matter of time before the front office has to listen.
I think that Shaduer would look infinitely better than Dillon Gabriel. with the first unit if he got the opportunity.
I agree. I want to say this as well. I'm looking forward to, you asked me how much I'm looking forward to this Browns season, 4 practices in to start the show, and I still am looking forward to it. A big thing that I'm looking forward to.
On paper, it looks simple. A young QB earning his stripes behind veterans. But behind closed doors, some believe this is about more than depth charts. The elephant in the room? His last name. Shedeur Sanders isn't just a rookie. He's the son of Deion Sanders, one of the most electric, outspoken, and polarizing figures in football history. And with that name comes attention, headlines, pressure, and expectation. Some within the Browns organization reportedly see Shaduer as a media magnet. The theory? Handing him the keys too early would shift the spotlight from the team to one player. Others fear what Deion might say publicly if his son leapfrogs the veterans too quickly. There's no proof. No one's saying it out loud. But the pattern feels too calculated to ignore. Flawless practices. No first-team reps. Growing locker room support. Still, silence. Is the Browns front office playing it safe or playing politics? Because if this is about control, image, or avoiding controversy, they might be ignoring the very thing that could save their season. And the longer this plays out, the more people are beginning to ask, is Shaduer being benched because of what he's done or because of who he is? For a while, the Browns kept it quiet. No press conferences, no headlines, just the same rep chart day after day. But that silence, it didn't last. Because once Shedeur stacked back-to-back flawless practices, the whispers turned into questions, not just from fans or teammates, but from the national media. NFL insiders began asking the obvious. Why isn't Shedeur Sanders getting first-team reps? Stats started circulating. Side-by-side comparisons showing Shadeur's numbers dwarfing Flacco's and Gabriel's. Some analysts defended the Browns for being cautious, but most weren't buying it. One clip went viral when a former player bluntly said, "If that kid's last name was Smith, he'd already be QB1." And just like that, this wasn't a hidden controversy anymore. It became a conversation on every sports talk show. Fans started chanting his name at camp. Social media lit up with slow-mo clips of his throws pulling millions of views. Even opposing players were quietly watching. The pressure was coming from all sides. Inside the locker room, from fans in the stands, and now from the national spotlight. And with every clean throw Shaduer delivered, the Browns' silence only got louder. Most rookies in Shadeur's position would have cracked, called out the coaching staff, vent to the media, start forcing throws in practice to make a point. But Shaduer, he didn't say a word. The next morning, he was the first player on the field. No cameras, no hype, just him, helmet on, throwing routes to third-string receivers before most of the team had even taped up. It wasn't for show. It was a message, not to the fans, not to social media, but to the building. He was still here, still working, still outshining every other quarterback. That day, he delivered another flawless session. Sharp reads, tight windows, controlled huddle. Same results, better than Gabriel, smoother than Flacco. Still no first-team reps, but you could feel the tension shift. Even vets started noticing. Amari Cooper reportedly gave Shaduer a quiet nod during warm-ups. A small gesture, But in NFL culture, that speaks volumes. No headlines, no outbursts, just consistent, undeniable production. And the longer the staff kept pretending nothing had changed, the clearer it became. Shaduer didn't need to talk. He was making his case the only way that mattered. With every rep, he was forcing the Browns to make a choice. The Browns may still control the depth chart, but they don't control the momentum anymore. Because what started as quiet camp buzz has grown into something bigger, something they can't contain. The media's asking questions, fans are demanding answers, and inside the locker room, veterans are no longer whispering. They're making their opinions known. Multiple sources say offensive starters have privately lobbied to run more reps with Shedeur. Not because he's flashy, but because they believe in his ability to lead, to move the chains, to win. And that's when it gets real. Once a locker room starts picking a side, coaches lose their buffer. The room starts to split. And if you ignore that too long, you don't just lose games, you lose the team. But here's where it gets even more complicated. Behind the scenes, some in the organization reportedly worry that giving Shaduer the job, or even letting him compete for it, could trigger a media frenzy. More attention, more pressure, more questions about Dion. So instead of embracing the rookie's rise, they've tried to downplay it. Control the pace. Protect the process. But Shaduer isn't fading quietly. Every practice he dominates, every teammate he earns, every fan he wins over, it all adds weight. The Browns can keep pushing him down the chart. They can stick to the plan. But at some point, the numbers, the performances, the support, it's all gonna collide. And when that moment hits, there won't be anywhere to hide. Because Shedeur Sanders isn't asking for the job. He's taking it, rep by rep, snap by snap, in plain sight. And if the Browns don't act soon, the football world will. This isn't about favoritism. It's not about hype. It's about results. Shedeur Sanders came into training camp as a rookie, buried on the depth chart, expected to wait his turn. But instead of waiting, he's delivering with precision, poise, and consistency. He's done everything the right way. No complaining, no shortcuts, just work. And now, the Browns are standing at a crossroads. They can keep protecting the old guard, clinging to experience, playing it safe. Or they can lean into the future that's already unfolding right in front of them. Because at some point, this stops being a quarterback battle and starts being a credibility test. How long can you ignore the guy outperforming everyone else? How long before the locker room shifts completely? Before fans start booing the decisions? Before national voices turn the spotlight into pressure the franchise can't escape? You can bench a rookie. You can control the reps. But you can't silence momentum. Not when it's earned. Shedeur Sanders isn't a media story. He's not a distraction. He's a competitor, a leader. And if the Browns aren't careful, they won't just delay his rise. They'll define themselves by their refusal to see it. Because sooner or later, talent forces your hand. And when that moment comes, the Browns won't just be making a depth chart change, they'll be making a statement about who they really are.